Do you know what I did, Erin?
What?
I took down an episode of our Wigging Out.
What? Why? Which one? No.
I wanted to talk to you about this.
And this is
So if you haven't seen Wigging Out,
oh my God. Well, now you're going to be able to see one less episode.
you're gonna see one less episode.
Unreal.
And maybe I should put it back up.
Yeah. I mean, way to dog me. You literally wait till you have me on a public podcast to tell me something devastating. Which episode?
Episode 1.
No, that's our initiation into the Wigging Out world. What happened? Why? Is it me?
I just thought maybe there's an accent in that episode.
There may or may not be certain accents that we explore, but I play every character I play with integrity.
Yes.
All right.
And also, we have since discovered that you can play accents we didn't think before.
Yes, I am allowed to. I'm legally allowed to. My aunt 23 and me, and I found out that I have a little bit of Chinese descent.
That was the accent.
And that may or may not have been the accent that I chose to do during an episode many, many years ago. When it was still considered
like fun, lighthearted.
I think it was greenlit. The Office was doing things like that, so I consider that my litmus for what I'm able to do comedically. Okay, so you pulled that episode.
Well, here's the thing: is like, so I was kind of wondering what you thought about this. I feel like it's interesting, like what's taboo comedically.
Everything right now.
Yeah. But it's also like what makes something taboo, I think, becomes important too, right? Or like what's the perception? Because here's the thing is like you could do any accent in the world, right? And you could be like, I'm no ill will, right? But if it's in like, the zeitgeist of the time that people think, oh, when you do that accent, you mean ill, right?
Right.
Then you just kind of have to go with, what the perception is, right? It's just, I always feel like it's the same as the middle finger. It's like the middle finger is not a bad finger.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
But like the perception is like you have ill will when you hold it up.
Yeah.
And so like you just kind of, I guess, just like comedically, you do have to go, you have to be like, you always have to be conscious of like, when do people think like you mean ill?
Right.
And like if the hurdle's too big to jump because like everyone just assumes that like, oh, that accent is meant like mean-spiritedly, and then you know what I mean?
I think it's also tough maybe for like video content because oftentimes like when you watch something you don't know that person firsthand, so you don't know like their experiences or what sort of
you don't know if like you were raised in like a multicultural family and like right
there's no way I guess to tell, but I think certainly the climate right now is very, very hot, and there's a lot of
cancel culture.
Cancel culture.
I hope we get canceled already on this episode.
One and done. So I understand the need to kind of like walk on eggshells right now, but it's also like truly, truly hurting my soul knowing that comedy can't be free anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't ever want it to come off like I don't care.
Yeah.
But I also want to be able to touch on topics that other people don't necessarily want to touch on because I feel like that's what comedy is there for. And like the fact that like it's our responsibility to do it intelligently and with tact and present you with something that you might not laugh hysterically at in the moment, but you can go home and maybe think about it later or like, I don't know what the intention is, but the
also,
idea that like comedy can just be knocked down to just the bare bones is sad for me.
I think here's how I think about like when you think about who you tease, right? And who you make fun of in life, right? Like who you do it to their face.
Yeah.
It's almost always your friend.
Right.
Unless you're an asshole. And then you do it to strangers, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that you're on terms with someone that you can like playfully tease and like rib each other or whatever is like the fact that you can make fun of them is a sign of like friendship, right? And so it's unfortunate that there's like so many areas right now where like, and maybe rightly so, where like there's like culturally there's bad blood, and so they feel the teasing doesn't feel like it's coming from like a fun friendship sort of way.
Yes.
Right? Like we're all on the same
page. It feels like antagonistic or cruel.
I was even thinking too, like what, like, you know, if you think about, take an accent, for example, like what is it that makes it funny? It's usually some like aspect of like, oh yeah, that is what it's like. More so than it is like, I'm making fun of this person. Right? Like, oh, like that German accent. Oh yeah, that is what German sounds like, right? There's so much like in comedy, there's so much of that like, oh yeah, like good observation.
Yeah.
And so like, I feel like with accents, especially if somebody does it well, it's like part of the comedy is like, oh yeah, that is how people sound.
I think it's also like making sure that you're not creating a stereotype and like talking about the things that like, you know, people directly associate with like whatever culture, whatever accent, whatever nationality, and rather you take that and just kind of filter in a situation, but through that character's eyes.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know. I feel like it should be allowed, but it's just not.
It's just not.
So you pulled the episode.
Maybe I should put it back. I don't know. But the thing is, like, I wouldn't want people to think like,
especially episode 1, we're like coming out the gate.
I don't know. I just wouldn't want people to think that like, oh, like we had bad intentions.
Yeah. Just say me. Just say I had bad intentions.
I've had my share of moments.
Johnny's the most evil.
Oh my God. The things when you do things on stage and improv world and it's not recorded, you can learn your lesson and then walk away. But also it's like, think like, you know, like when I like teach people and like the stuff people say, I'm like,
outrageous.
You can't say that.
Yeah. But
then I'm also like, think back to like first classes and like what people said and like maybe like what I thought I should or could say. And it was like,
I mean, you say some stupid shit.
I've said some stupid shit.
Yeah.
But we all have, right?
Oh, for sure.
Like, also, people who, like, everything's changing, right? Like I was thinking about, isn't it funny that we, like, used to be, like, everything was gay? That's so gay.
Oh, yeah. All the time.
Like, I said that a bunch.
What about, like, I can't even say it, but
I know.
R word.
I know, the R word.
I know. I used to say it, like, all the time. You just never give it a second thought.
You never thought about it.
Yeah. But I think we were talking about this the other day. Like, what are the things that we're doing now in our culture that, like, 10 years from now are going to be blasphemous? So, like, oh, my God, you used to.
But also things might go in cycles, too, because, like, you know, like, if, like, we don't say, like, that's gay because, like, there's been bad blood between the straight world and the gay community, which there certainly has, right?
Yeah.
Then, like, maybe we cross it, like, you know, a point in the future where, like, you know, that's straight, that's gay. Like, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Because there's not, like, things go in cycles, you know? And, like, also, it's like, when you start to examine, it's like that intent again. It's like, what was the intent? And if the intent changes, maybe, like, you know, the language changes and what becomes taboo changes. And
that's what's, like, I guess maybe sad to me, too, is, like, I'm thinking of my teammates in various iterations of teams that I've been on. And I know that everybody's intent was just to make people laugh, right? But it could so easily be misconstrued by any audience member that doesn't know us from Adam. And they're just like, oh my God, they said that? Are you kidding? Like, I can't even think about how many people I've unintentionally offended.
Yeah, but also, like, you could have the most, you know, plain show in the world and someone would be offended too.
Right, exactly.
So it's like, that's not the standard in and of itself. I mean, I think there's, like, you know, some self-critical, like, yeah, it's very interesting.
Not give a fuck, but I think that you can't.
You have to give a fuck.
You have to give a fuck.
Yeah, you have to give a fuck. Because even if, like, you're not ill-intended, people don't know that. Yeah. And, like, I always tell that to people too. I'm like, man, like, regardless of, like, you know, where you think you're coming from, once you lose your audience, you've lost your audience, right? And, like, if your audience thinks you mean ill, like, and here's the thing too, it's like when it's improvised, it's so much harder. Yeah. Right? Whether it's like satire and you're having like a little like cutting edge, like, you know, thing you're trying to say, or if it's like stand up, like you can formulate that, right, to get people like on your page, like on the same page with you, like laugh at something they wouldn't agree with satirically. But when it's improvised, because you're just kind of going with the flow, you don't, even as like an experienced improviser, you might find yourself in a territory that you're like, oh no.
Yeah, right.
Like, that's not what I meant it.
Yeah, for sure. Because you really, I mean, you're saying essentially the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tricky one.
It's a tricky one.
It is, truly.
Yeah.
Truly.
Don't do that British accent. I know what you're trying to do.
Oh, it wasn't me. I didn't do nothing. So offended. Everybody's so offended.
I'm offended.
Oh my gosh.
I don't always know too if everyone's so offended, but like the people who are offended speak up.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
And so, but that's the same with everything. Is like all the extremes in our world today are like what you hear, and so I don't think things are as crazy as it feels. It's just that like the clickbait of like our online life makes us feel like the most angry people are what most people are feeling.
Right.
And it's the thing we focus on because like our brains are like, oh, anger.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. There's so many reasonable people.
Yeah, who are just
There's
staying
so many
silent.
yeah. There's so many reasonable people
to speak
who are just
up.
like,
Yeah, it's
probably
true,
better just
though.
not to, you know.
But I think that